I wanted to talk to you today specifically about one book, which is this one. It's The Lesser Bohemians by Eimear McBride. Now, this has been on my list for a long time, and this copy is one I was given for Christmas. I was reading it partly as I read through the Goldsmiths shortlist, which you've heard me talk about before, but also I wanted to read it because McBride obviously in the particular literary circles in which she is read, has been hailed as, by many people, a genius, and as being able to do what James Joyce did, and is one of those group of Irish writers, along with Mike McCormack and potentially also Anna Kena Schofield, if you count her as Irish as well as Canadian, who is writing incredible, interesting, innovative material at the moment. So I've had The Lesser Bohemians on my list for some time. I have to say I hesitate. I've been putting off reading it a little bit, not because of anything I'd heard about it, more because I was slightly intimidated. I am trying myself at the moment to write interesting literary fiction, to do something, I guess, that hasn't been done before, because why do something that's been done before? And McBride is sort of the woman out there who seems to be furthest ahead of the pack on this. So I was slightly intimidated before I read it, and I still actually haven't read her first novel, A Girl is a Half-Born Thing, which I really must do. It's beginning to get a little silly that it's sitting there on my shelves and hasn't yet been read. But The Lesser Bohemians. So I finally read it over the last week or so. It is a very, very interesting book. Absolutely deserves the reviews it's been getting, the plaudits it's been getting, its position on the Goldsmiths list. It is the story of an Irish 18-year-old arriving in London for the first time in order to go to drama school, and of her first love affair in that context. She falls in love with a man from the north of England, another actor who is relatively famous, 20 years older than her, and it's the story of their love over the first year of her drama school. So it's arranged by terms, so you get the time in London, followed by her time back in Ireland, followed by the time back in London, but with the emphasis very, very much on the time in London. Something on the friendships that she has, quite a lot on her impressions of being in London after being in Ireland, but very, very much focusing on this love story between the two of them. And as I expected, given what I've read about and heard about McBride, the story is told in a very, very fragmented language to start with. It is Joycean, that absolutely cannot be denied. There's the odd direct quotation allusion to parts of Joyce. There's a section that alludes to the opening lines of Finnegan's Wake, and that writing is brilliant. I loved it. It took me a little bit of time to get into, but once my brain had attuned to what it was doing rhythmically, then it had a vividness for me that standard English sentences, as most novelists write them, do not have. It's highly fragmentary. It is highly colloquial. There is no distinction in the punctuation between what one person's saying, what the next person's saying. It's stream of consciousness with direct speech. It's sort of as almost automatically as part of it, and it's fantastic. It's particularly good for talking about different states of mind. So it's not good for talking about rational thought, and McBride's narrator does that actually very little. We don't get her philosophizing about the meaning of life. What we do get is the impressions that run through her mind when she's drunk, when she's high on drugs, when she is... there's a lot of sex in the novel, as well as, again, from what I've read of McBride, I had expected, and also that fits with the Joycean approach as well. And in all of those sort of slightly altered states of mind, the language she uses is really fantastic. But then something changes partway through. So the first third of the novel, this is giving nothing away, but the first third of the novel is the narrator, who for a long time has no name, arriving in London, and the impressions she gets of that world and her immersion in that, and how exciting and how different, and occasionally how frightening that is. But then about a third of the way in, it switches into the narrative voice of the actor, the older man she's fallen in love with, through the device of him sitting down and telling her the story of his childhood. And we've been led to believe through the early bit of the novel that there has been something wrong in his childhood, there's something difficult about his childhood. But then suddenly you get this 80-page monologue about all of the abuse he suffered as a child, and particularly the sexual abuse at the hands of his mother, and how that therefore explains his time as a drug addict, which we have heard about before, and also his difficulty in having faithful sexual relationships, and the story is triggered by some unfaithfulness. And this is where the novel broke down a bit for me. So writing from his point of view, the telling of his story it's absolutely fine. But McBride switches from her very fragmentary, very what we think of as Joycean language to really quite a relatively normal style, normal contemporary first-person story. To me, there was no real individuality about it. I wasn't particularly convinced by it. I wasn't comfortable with the switch from the highly engaged female narrator of the first third to her suddenly just sitting there listening for 80 pages with hardly any, with really no response at all to what he says. You get the occasional sort of 2-3 line response in her head, and then he starts again. And it just didn't, that section just didn't work for me. So you get this 80-page monologue, and then it returns to the young girl's story again, and how she reacts, and how their relationship then continues after his story having been told. And then it goes back to the normal language we associate with the first part of the novel, and it all picks up again for me. It is the ending was not what I expected. I won't give away what it was. It's an interesting ending. There are all sorts of interesting allusions flying around. We get a little bit more of the acting side and the drama school side of her first year at drama school in London as well. And as I say, it seemed to me to come together again at the end. So I had as this probably makes clear, I had a slightly mixed view. So I will go back and I will reread the first third of this in particular. I was genuinely disappointed by the second third, and anyone who had a different view, please do let me know in the comments, because maybe I was missing something, and there was more to it than I thought there was. And I will certainly read whatever she writes next. I will continue to read the bits of non-fiction that she publishes in various places, and I will go back and I will read A Girl as a Half-Formed Thing. But I would not recommend this absolutely without reservation. I would recommend reading the first third of it. Read the rest of it once. As I say, let me know what you think. But that was my view on the Lesser Bohemians, and I remain intimidated a little by her writing in the first third. I'm not sure I'm intimidated by her ability to put together a whole novel and how that works, which is exciting. That means that I am free again to go write my own stuff and see how it goes. So, The Lesser Bohemians, Eimear McBride. Mixed views from this end, but do let me know what you think.